All right, so we're back with the next episode. So remember the preview episode, the announcement episode that I posted that I said, hopefully we won't have any technical difficulties. Well, we ran into some technical difficulties. Unfortunately, as you see, I already have part of this episode completed, and that's because I started this yesterday, and I recorded what would have equated to about maybe 6 or 7 minutes of this episode. And when I went to save that sample, a quote unknown error occurred, um, and the video didn't save and it didn't convert properly. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys an overview of what I did during that episode, and hopefully be able to uh, give you the same important and pertinent information, even though you didn't get to see me physically put it down. So I apologize for that, but we're still going to continue through with this stuff. The good news is that I didn't really do many new things. I didn't really take any sort of new approaches. There are a couple of things I do want to talk to you about, but so I took the same approach that I took with the very first episode, in which I did I put down all, like, wherever the melody was, I placed the melody from the beginning all the way to this little section where I stopped, which is like, I don't know, 45 seconds of music or something like that. And then I went back and I put in the stuff that I knew I could hear. Like, I put down the tuba line, and then I put down some of the moving lines that took place in, like, the lead baritones or in the mellophones or something like that. And then I went and listened to the recording as a whole and filled in the pieces. So same general approach. I do want to explain why I put this crescendo here. I don't think that these crescendos are written in the score. However, and I may or may not have mentioned this. I don't remember if this shows up in previous episodes, but um, I I watch Crown's rehearsal videos, any things that, like, fans post up online throughout the season, because I'm not just looking at Crown from a standpoint of, oh my gosh, I love what they do on the field, because I do love what they do on the field, but I also want to learn everything I can from the top quality brass staff that is working with that core. And so whenever they're in town, I go to watch their rehearsals and such, and then I get to see all the stuff that they get to do as a drum corps. And then, when they're touring and a fan posts a rehearsal video or anything like that, I see rehearsal videos. So anyway, I'm explaining that to say that one of the things that Matt Harloff said in, like, a June rehearsal or something that is up on YouTube, was that he wanted his horn line to push through to the end of this phrase all the way to the release. And he actually had them grow on that last measure towards the release. And so that's why I put these crescendos here, so that the horn line would grow to the end of the release. And actually, on later videos, like, if you watch, like, I think there's a quarterfinals brass video showing, you can actually see the brass staff, like, expanding their hands as if to say crescendo towards the end of the phrase. So I wanted to take the time to explain that. Really, what I'm saying is, you can use all of your experiences possible with a drum corps to influence your ability to enhance a transcription. Okay, so that's the message that I'm sending here. And I just love to learn everything I can from them. We're gonna go. I'll go ahead and I'll let you listen to it so that you can hear what it sounds like, and then we'll continue on from there. Trumpets have the same thing up the octave. Okay. And I'll let you hear this part too. Okay. Yeah, I know for a fact that voicing is off, so we'll fix that. I also wanted to mention when the baritone line comes in with the melody, the trumpet does the same thing but in a different key, and so I actually copied, like, the first two measures of this and pasted it in the trumpet part. and then did the same thing that I did with these parallel intervallic lines that happened earlier. Was I transposed it to be in the key where the trumpets actually played it. Okay, so yeah. So anyway, we'll go ahead and start with or continue with the work that we were doing before, and we'll finish out this episode. And we're going to do that same thing with the transposition as we were doing last time, because I believe that it is applicable here as well. Chromatically down a minor third. Whoops, I went in the wrong direction. I forgot to click the down button. Down a minor third. And then same thing here. Yep, sounds correct. Okay. I like to get rid of the double sharps and double flats that occur sometimes when we do those automatic transposition things, just because it looks better to me. That's really the only reason why I do that. It just kind of makes me feel better. It's not going to sound any different, so, you know, I could technically leave it there, and no one's going to play this in real life, but, you know, I just want to change it, so. And we'll go ahead and add these parts down below. Here we go. The missing minor third interval. Minor third. Okay. So whenever you have minor thirds stacked on top of each other, they create tritone intervals and diminished chords. And so those of you who have a sufficient number of theory, a sufficient amount of theory knowledge know this already. But when you, let's see, when you manage to stack minor thirds on top of each other until they get to the next octave, you can actually fit 4 equally spaced notes away from each other. So that would be, 3 major or 3 half steps between each note. And on that last note is actually that same intervallic distance from that note to the octave above. Hopefully what I said makes sense. So you can actually have a tetrachord that takes you evenly up to the next octave. And so when I use the 3 trumpet parts, the reason why I'm explaining this, when I use the 3 trumpet parts and I have the 3 parts, usually when you have a triad, yeah, you have 3 tones because it's a triad. But I can actually have a tetrachord. I can fit 2 or 4 chord tones between those octaves instead of 3 when you're doing a fully diminished chord. And so I only had 3 of those tones being represented, so I'm representing the 4th tone right here. Okay, that'll do for our purposes right now. We'll probably go back and check that voicing whenever we go back and check this voicing over here. But that's gonna do good for me right now. So the next thing we have is yap-ba-dum, da-ga-da-dum-ba-dum, 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 which is a quarter note. Okay. Yeah, we do. We want to hold that. I was trying to debate whether or not I should have them cut off before each release, or if I should have them sustain. Beep-ba-da, off, da-ga-da-dum-ba-da, off, or beep-ba-dum, da-ga-da-dum-ba-dum, da-ga-da-dum-ba-dum. I think I'm going to do the latter of the two and see how that sounds. And then, of course, I'll go back and listen. I'll be able to hear if that's the case when I go back and listen to the recording itself. Ba-ba-dum, be-a-da-da-ba-dum. Okay, we're dealing with the same thing too here while I'm thinking about it as we were before. So this is just, I want to mention this because it's a pattern type of deal that I hope that you guys are noticing as I'm transcribing this. But when I fill out this entire thing here all the way down to to the lowest voice, these harmonies are also moving parallel. So the intervallic distance, as the notes change, the intervallic distance between the notes and the parts remain the same. Just like all of the stuff that we've been doing before hitting this point. So I'm going to demonstrate that once I get this part written, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys understood that. Because the second trumpet part I know is a minor third below the first trumpet part, and I also know that the first trumpet part of measure 2 is a minor third below the first trumpet part of measure 1. All I have to do is just take these measures and put them right here, and that makes those first two measures of the trumpet 2 part, right? And then I do the same thing with the trumpet 3 part. So listen to this. So that's, all I need to do in that case. And then, of course, I'll go and then flesh out the remaining stuff. And I'll do that this way. When I show you guys these shortcuts, I hope they're helping you understand. Whenever I am doing these transcriptions on my own and then I do them really quickly, and you guys always ask how long I do them and you wonder how I do them so quickly, I use shortcuts like this all the time in order to speed up the process. Well, I'm going to fill this out the way I think it is. This measure right here, I'm going to fill out what I think it actually is, and if I'm wrong, and I have a feeling that I am wrong, that I'm incorrect, we'll get a chance to change it when we go back and we listen to it. Yep, I'm pretty sure that's it. And then for the horns, for the mellophones, we've got ba-da-da-deem, 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 ba-da-da-deem. Yep, that first note, that first beat in this measure we're going to have to fix. But other than that, that sounds correct. So I'm going to go ahead and, just because it makes me feel better, eliminate these double sharps. And add some articulation markings. All right, and now we've got the same exact situation as we had last time. That is motivating me to put a crescendo on this measure right before that B flat major chord. Same thing as I talked about before. I was watching a rehearsal video and Matt Harloff was getting on the horn line about making sure that this chord didn't die down before it reached its next chord, that B flat chord. And so he had them grow towards that release. That sounds like something that may or may not have been written into the music, and they might just not have been doing, and he was getting on them to do. It sounds like, it at least looks like it would make sense. But at any rate, that's why I'm putting that crescendo right there. Now, I think there's also one other small thing that I want to change here. I think we've already reached the chord by the time we get to that downbeat. So I'm going to change that and that to a downbeat, or I'm sorry, to a root of excuse me, the E chord, and I'm gonna leave that the way it is because why not? It's still sounding as if it's major chord. Okay, so let's see. Yep, I think that's what we want. So we will go ahead and continue from there. And this part gets a little bit easier because we have some monophonic lines going on here. Yep, that's what we want. And then the mellophones do a similar thing. I'm pretty sure that this is a 2/4 measure, or I guess a 6/8 measure is what I mean to say, but 2 beats instead of 4 beats here. And And I'm also pretty sure that this is a rip that we are going to notate through the use of grace notes. Yeah, this was one of the more fantastic moments for me of listening to Crown, because it's fairly simple, right? But you get to see you get to hear very clearly the overt change in style from one measure to the next. You know, very very quickly changes color and character, and it was really cool. So we have. Yeah, and actually, I changed my mind again. Yeah, that'll have to do. And then, of course, we know what happens here. We have. Yep, there we go. And beats 2 and 4, we know slur. We also know that the tuba part is in unison down the octave, but it only does the slurred lines. He doesn't do the tuba parts. Michael doesn't have the tuba parts doing the triple tonguing. He just has them going dum da ga da dum da ga da dum da ga da dum da ga da dum. So we will notate that accordingly. Okay. And we're going to notate that by doubling it in the trumpet, having it go up an octave once, up an octave again, and then down a half step, because I believe that's where it starts. Down. And I'm also pretty sure that the diminished theme continues on, so after we go and fix these double sharps, we will copy this rhythm in the second trumpet part and make it down, move it down a minor third. Intervallically, these relationships stay the same throughout pretty much this entire opener, and so that makes it pretty easy to flesh out these parts from top to bottom in comparison to some of the other stuff that we've transposed already and that we're going to transpose once we get to the closer. Okay? All right. So as you can hear, I have a pretty good idea for the most part of what this section sounds like. We've got some stuff to fill in down here, which we will do very shortly. But we'll just listen to this quick section just so you can hear what it sounds like so far. We'll have to add a dynamic marking to that. There's a triplet figure going on in that horn part before it goes to the trumpet part. So yeah, so that's where we are right now. We'll go ahead and continue with this and fill in some of these lines before we move forward to the end of the rest of this episode. Make the end of that crescendo forte down there. That forte will carry over to here. All right, so now let's see how this sounds and see if this is what we're looking for. I'm pretty sure it is. Yep, I think so. We are starting to near the stage where we're going to go back and listen to a couple of the head cams again, those two head cams, and then some of the sample audio recordings so that we can help us fill in the blanks. But we're going to go ahead and push through to the end of what we want this episode to stop at writing what we know, just so that we have a place to stop when we fill in the blanks later. Generally speaking, when you're arranging or composing music, the third of the chord is not a perfect interval, which means it's not as stable. And I'm gonna explain this very shortly and vaguely. So if you don't understand, please leave a question in the comment section, and I'll try to explain it to a deeper depth, to more depth. But the third of the chord, we don't need as many people voicing the third of a chord when you play a chord, generally speaking, because it's one of the less stable. It's a less stable chord tone than all the perfect intervals, being like a perfect fifth or a perfect fourth or an octave, and so it doesn't take as much of that presence of that note in order to color a chord. So that's why it doesn't question. There's no question in my mind at all why the third of the chord is the only thing not doubled here in this thing going on here, and then the octaves are doubled 3 times, and the fifth is doubled once. The octave, I think, the octave is definitely the most stable interval, and then followed by the fifth, and then followed by the fourth, which we don't have a perfect fourth interval, and then followed by the third. So that's why progressively, once you get through those intervals, they're voiced less, and I do believe this is how Michael Klesch voiced it. Okay, and then also, as well, in the mellophone part, we've got that whole tone scale happening again. Okay, now this trick I haven't done it in a while, not since like the first few transcriptions I did back in 2010. But for balance things, I think that the horn 1 part, we want that note, that fifth, to really be as intense as possible. And so we are going to double it with itself by going to the second layer on finale and writing the same notes. And so the reason why I do this is that finale will count it as 2 notes playing. And as you know, when you double something on finale will make it twice as loud, whereas in a live setting, of course, if you balance and blend, it's not going to be twice as loud, logistically speaking. But in finale's case, it will be, because it's a computerized system. So I'll double this so that we hear the fifth of the chord a lot more present than the root of the chord and these sustains. But I still wanted to hear that root of the chord because I'm pretty sure that exists in the horn 2 part. So I think that's the extent of what I can put in before I go back and listen to the actual recording. I'm going to start by listening to this part right here, because rhythmically I know that the lead baritone is doubled unison rhythm all the way throughout the low brass, but I have no idea what those notes are, and rather than guess them, I'm just going to go ahead and listen to those 2 headcams I have, the one that I think is baritone 2, and then the one that is the tuba part. So we're going to listen to those and fill it in that way. All right, I think that's going to do it for that section. Let's back up a bit and see what else we were missing. Oh, that might have been it. It might have just been the revoicing of the stuff back here. I'm gonna play around with the voicing stuff here a little bit on camera so that you guys can see it. But if I can't figure out if this attempt doesn't fix itself fairly quickly, then I'll go ahead and call it an episode, and I'll tweak it on my own, and you guys will get to see it. What I eventually did with it when I post the final transcription, and then also when I post the bonus material, I'll probably come to this section and explain what I'm doing. So the tuba part does not participate in this line. I originally thought it did. but I just went back and listened to the tuba head cam, and it doesn't come in until it gets here. So that's part of the problem we are having. So um, let's adjust that accordingly. And then I think the next thing that we're having is that means that we don't have it evenly split, 3 voices to 3 voices. So I think it's split between instrumentation now. So the trumpets have the first line, then the mellophones have the second line, then the baritone and euphoniums have the third line. That's going to be my theory, which means that we need to move this, transpose this up and fill in the minor third chord tone that we originally left out, and see if that solves our problem at least a little bit here. Yes, it does. We are going to also move this up a tritone. That might have solved my voicing woes that I had on that first episode, or on the first part of this episode. I think that's gonna sit a lot better. Yeah, I think so. All right, so I think that that is it for this episode, and the next episode we will do the rest of the opener. I don't remember if I played the rest of the opener for you guys, so I'll play it so that you guys can hear what we're going to be doing next. Let's see, it probably starts out here. Yeah. So we will start here on the trumpet trampoline feature. I'm really excited about this backfield part and the bonus features. When I come out the bonus features, I'm going to try something out that I've never tried before in our playback, and you guys, I guess, will get to let me know if it works once I post the actual full transcription up. So intense. And the drumline is just killing it here. So that is what you will get next episode. I'm thinking theoretically that should be one of the easier episodes for you guys, those of you guys who are participating along. So best of luck, and like I said, post your video responses or post a link. If it's not on YouTube, you can post a link to Noteflight or Audacity or wherever you guys are doing the transcriptions. You can post that link in the comment section, and I'll be able to see it, and everyone else will be able to see it as well. So, and then you'll get to compare yours with mine. So that is it for today, and I will see you guys in the next episode.